There's a place on the eastern side of Canada that is unlike anywhere else, and it's possible that you've never even heard of. It's a small island with a big amount of history, and it's called Newfoundland. The island of Newfoundland is part of the Canadian province of Newfoundland and Labrador. And like I said, it's probably the province that you hear the least about, especially when it comes to hunting. And that's of course because its sister provinces like Manitoba, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and British Columbia are famous for the amount of wild game that it has on tap. And rightly so. But the island of Newfoundland has a lot to offer. It too is loaded with wild game and all sorts of interesting characters. Some of them local and some of them not. This is not your typical moose camp, and these are not your typical moose hunters. As you can see, I'm taking this seriously. Do I have a drink in my hand? No. We've been here 5 minutes and all the Michiganders have a drink in their hand already. That's the kind of week this is gonna be. Crazy bastards.
Well, Nick, how you doing back there?
I've been lucky enough to hunt all over the world for all sorts of things, and I've also been pretty lucky while doing it. For the most part, most of my hunts end up pretty successful. But there's one species that has eluded me no matter how hard I've tried, and that has been my quest to harvest my first moose. I've tried to hunt moose in Canada twice, and both times failed miserably. And that is what brings me to the island of Newfoundland. Because on this little island, they have one of the densest moose populations anywhere in the world. And with the luck I've been having, that sounds like music to my ears. The island of Newfoundland got its name because, well, to the European explorers that first came here, it was technically Newfoundland. But long before they came here, the Vikings were here first, almost half a millennia before any Europeans showed up. And of course, technically, it wasn't Newfoundland at all, because the native people of this area have been here for thousands of years. Now I find myself staging my own Newfoundland invasion, leaving the States behind, making my way on several flights through Canada all the way to St. John's, Newfoundland. It's here that I meet up with my outfitter, Jim Caminga of Next Ridge Outfitters, and he takes me on a 2-hour drive to the edge of this gorgeous lake. And it's here that my Newfoundland adventure begins. One of my favorite things about going on hunting adventures is feeling the hunt unfold. I'm like excited, like a little kid at Christmas, because I don't know what to expect. Look at this place. It's amazing. The important stuff. I'll let them take care of the other stuff. I'm protecting this. The province of Newfoundland and Labrador is divided into two halves. The much larger half, Labrador, rests on the mainland of Canada, and Newfoundland sits just across the Strait of Belle Isle. It's nicknamed the Rock, and it doesn't take much time looking at the scenery around here to understand why. Newfoundland and Labrador has a population of just over 500,000 people, but the island of Newfoundland hosts 94% of that population. As we head out on boats across the lake to base camp, it is very clear that there is none of that population here. The only people I'm going to see over the next week are the Next Ridge Outfitters staff and these guys. I'm joined on this trip by my friends from Michigan, Brent Pike and Todd Ireland. And they're here not for the moose, but for the mountain ptarmigan hunting. And if things go well for me on the moose side, I hope to join them at some point. Compared to the other 2 moose hunts I've been on in my life, this base camp is like the Taj Mahal. I put the beer safely away for later, the Michigan guys made themselves some cocktails, and I checked to make sure my gun was still shooting in one of the most beautiful spots I've ever shot a gun in my life. And then I went and cracked one of those beers and watched the sunset on my very first night in Newfoundland. Let the games begin. I'm in Newfoundland with one thing on my mind: moose. A bull moose, and I'm trying to break one of the worst stretches of bad luck I've ever had in my hunting career. Now the first morning of hunting has arrived, and everyone gathers to make a plan. My team on day 1 is Jim Caminga of Next Ridge Outfitters and his 2 sons, Ethan and Alec. And on this first morning, I'm antsy to say the least, and we waste no time setting out on foot from base camp. The moose rut is just beginning here in Newfoundland, and the game is simple. Put yourself in a good position and try to sound as sexy as possible.
It sounded sexy to me,
Around the year 1900, the island of Newfoundland was thriving because of its forestry and mining industries. But of course, all those people need to be fed, and despite its huge amount of natural resources, it was lacking in any significant amount of big game. So in 1904, 4 moose were introduced to the island in hopes that they would proliferate and become a good source of meat for the workers and also attract hunters. And it was a pretty good plan because Newfoundland had the perfect habitat for moose and almost no predators. And so those 4 moose thrived, and today there are somewhere around 100,000 of them on the island. One of whom snuck up on us and almost quite literally scared the crap out of me. Where's my Now, I'm sure you're wondering, how come Nick doesn't have his gun and why can't he find it? Well, I'll explain in a second.
What's our yardage?
I'm looking. 250.
I can't believe how fast that happened. Here's something that most people wouldn't tell you. I was literally taking a poop. True story. And as I'm coming back, these guys are like, there's a bull, like 50 yards right there. I'd like to tell you it's more romantic than that, but it's not. I don't know if he smelled my crap, or me, or those guys, or what, but he was long gone. It's word of the wise. Poop at camp. Poop at camp.
Well, there you have it. That's the whole story, and that's your tip of the day. The only thing that should be pooping in the Newfoundland great outdoors are the bear and the moose. We spent the rest of the day hiking and calling and glassing, and then we head back to camp, and the entire time the only thing that has been going through my head is, did I just screw up what might be my only chance at finally getting a bull moose because I needed to take a dump? And then as we hike back, I remind myself that this is only day 1, and I just happen to be in the most densely populated moose area in all of North America. So I'm not going to beat myself up too hard just yet. And the next morning, I take care of my business in camp this time, and then we head out on a beautiful glassy lake before sunrise, and as soon as it gets light, we almost immediately start seeing moose. It seems like things are looking up.
That's a good way to start the morning right there. It's so quiet out here, and there's a small bull with those 2 cows just over there. Too bad he's not bigger. It's like 100 yards away. I love it.
I'm in Newfoundland trying to finally harvest my first moose. And after a gorgeous morning with a whole bunch of encounters, we head back to camp for some lunch. I get to spend a few minutes talking to Jim Caminga about not only what makes this place so special for hunters, but also for him on a personal level.
You get your boys here this week, and I can see it in your eyes that this isn't just a business.
This is the 12th year we've had the operation, and so the kids have grown up. My 2 girls as well. They would come in the summer and help with building platforms and clearing areas, and you know, they would name waterfalls as we flew over them in the helicopter, and
Yeah.
it's our history that we're making, and you know, the memories we make with it, and it bonds us all together. So our dream is to hand this down to the next generation so they can steward.
Right.
They can take what we've begun and take it to the next level.
Yeah.
That's our hope.
It doesn't take long here to figure out that this place is special. You know what I mean? I mean, it's obviously this is beautiful, but this cabin here, I mean, this is pretty posh digs for where we are. But you didn't build this here, right?
No, this was built by an old friend of ours, Gary. He's had this here for 25 years. And then we purchased it from him a few years ago.
I would assume that something like this, you can't build this anymore either, right? Like this is probably grandfathered in here.
No, this whole area, everything you see is closed to development. So there will never be another building on this lake. We're really privileged to have this.
Yeah. And we're not talking about a small piece of ground here.
This particular moose management area is around 500 square miles. And then our other operation is close to 800 square miles.
That's public ground, technically, right?
All of this is provincial land.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's essentially like 500,000 acres of private ground for you guys.
And we've sought out the places where there are no roads.
Right.
To get to the moose in places like Alaska or the Yukon or British Columbia, you usually are flying in a small plane into camp, either with floats on the water or with wheels on the rocky ground. But the terrain in this area doesn't allow for much wheelplane action, and you can land on the water in some areas, but that only gets you so far. The guys at Next Ridge Outfitters use an Argo from time to time to get people into the backcountry, but the downside to that is that it leaves scars on the land that can last for years to come. And so they avoid that as much as possible. And Jim tells me that's okay, because here at Next Ridge Outfitters, they have a secret sauce.
We want remote because that's where the game has been left alone to grow. And
Enter the helicopter.
Let me tell you something. There is nothing that feels cooler than kneeling down with a gun strapped over your back and watching a helicopter come in to pick you up, especially when you know it's about to take you to some of the most remote areas in all of Newfoundland.
Only aim for perfection. Ain't no half stepping. I'm gonna take you back. Spitting facts, you gotta live with that. Got it. Don't want it. No problem. We mobbing.
Newfoundland is one of the rare places where it's legal to use a helicopter for transportation for big game hunting. But that certainly doesn't mean that you can just spot a moose and drop in on it. Actually here, that's totally against the rules. But you can use it to get where you're going, and just because we got dropped off in the middle of prime moose country didn't mean it was going to be a slam dunk.
It's pretty incredible. You can see for miles and miles out here. The ocean is right there. And over here is just as far as you can see moose country. And just in one quick swipe, I can probably see 10 moose. They're all really far away, but they're all everywhere in here, which makes me really happy. Really, really, really happy. Like, this doesn't feel like real life. You know what I mean? This feels like stuff that you only read about in magazines. I'm a little shell-shocked.
That afternoon, we did a lot of serious hiking, and despite the miles we put on, we didn't get anywhere close to any moose, let alone this shooter bull that was miles away. But honestly, that was just fine with me.
Might not have any luck today, but at least I get to go for a helicopter ride.
(1967) Vietnam. 22 years after the close of World War II, history begins to repeat itself. It's a different war in a different land, and once again there's a special need for an Army task force designed to secure the land and defeat the enemy in a given area.
The Vietnam War is often referred to as the Helicopter War. The U.S. military used around 12,000 helicopters in Vietnam, and the helicopter was an integral part of that war because of its unique ability to deliver supplies, men, medics, and gear to just about anywhere, including the most remote and rough areas of the jungle. And it's for that same reason that the helicopter is such an integral part of the backcountry experience in Newfoundland. Many places here are only accessible by helicopter. And as I get dropped off in the middle of nowhere on my third day of hunting here, I'm joined by fresh blood. His name is Kyle Hackett. He's a true Newfoundland local, and the jury is still out on whether or not that's a good thing.
Another day, another guide. Finally got Kyle here in camp. Got rid of the big guy. Got us a nice young sporting dude that's gonna probably hike us all over these mountains and beat me to death. But he says he knows where the moose are. You know where the moose are? Up there.
Kyle literally grew up in these backcountry hills with his dad, and he's hunted here his whole life. So he knows a thing or two about how to find a big bull moose in this country. But today, even though we hiked our butts off, we had no luck. And as we waited for the chopper to come pick us up, I got to spend a few moments getting to know my Newfie guy just a little bit better.
This is a special place, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And you grew up here.
Since I've been 5 years old, my father had me behind him, following his footsteps on these hills, showing me the ropes, these secret spots. I didn't find them myself. It's been a generation passed down to me.
Right.
So I can't take all the credit on, all these hunting places, but I'm very fortunate to know these hills as much as I do. You coming here and being in awe of everything and just falling in love with it, that's me every time.
Yeah.
Every time. Never gets old.
What does it mean to be a Newfie, as you call it, for you?
You get used to living off the land, right? I mean, we've got all this wildlife at our fingertips.
Yeah.
We've got lobster, crab, halibut,
Yeah.
codfish. It's a Newfoundland tradition at our fingertips.
So a lot like where I grew up in Minnesota, there's definitely a dialect, right? You guys put S's on the ends of stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Like ewes.
Well, Kyle may talk a little bit different than I do, but it's clear that we have a lot more in common than not. And one thing we definitely have in common is that we love it out here, even if I can't always understand what he's saying.
Morning number 4. We just got dropped off. And the beauty of that is that 10 minutes ago I was having breakfast and coffee. Now we're here in a spot that would have taken us, what, half a day to hike to?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That rules. And then I start looking up the hill and I go, yeah, we're still gonna walk.
No,
We're walking today, aren't we?
you're gonna walk. Your legs aren't gonna be your friends tonight.
Thank you.
For as different as this terrain is, and for as different as this hunt is, there are some things about backcountry hunts that are always the same no matter where you go. The first thing is that you get out what you put in, and usually that means putting in a lot of sweat equity. Over the next few hours, we walked and we glassed, and then we walked more and we glassed more. We were hoping to find a big bull moose getting out of his bed, but we weren't seeing anything. And then, as we were hiking to another vantage point,
We're gonna get up here now. We're gonna stop on this hill. We're gonna glass over there.
suddenly Kyle spots antler tips just over a rise, and they're only 75 yards away.
There's a bull. You can just see his tops. Get that tripod together if you would. I'm gonna sneak up on this knob right here so you can get some elevation for his shot. Stand up. Okay. You're gonna see his tops there. Done.
Oh my God.
Congratulations.
Oh my God.
Congratulations, man. Look at all the other moves.
So far, Newfoundland has captured my heart and helped me make a dream come true.
Oh my God.
And the best part is that my Newfoundland adventure is only just beginning.
5-6 years, 3 hunts, probably 20 plus days of hunting. Total disappointment. All waited for this one moment, one of the most exciting damn hunts of my life. Holy crap.
Put it there, brother.
And what a moose too, huh?
You've got a trophy there. I'll tell you.